Alright, this is a video I've been wanting to do for quite some time. Wanted to show off my movie room. After watching a lot of DVD collections on YouTube, I felt like it was the time for me to throw my hat in the ring. I did a quick tally today. Looks like I'm right around 28 to 2,900 DVDs and Blu-rays combined. And I figure we'll just dive right into it. And here it is, my DVD room finally revealed. I've been having difficulties figuring out the best way to show off this room because the room is so small and there's so many DVDs in here. Finally came up with, I figured I'd just show you piece by piece, take a chunk at a time. So I figured we'd start here with the left side of the room. Alright, I figured I'd start off with how I categorize my DVDs here in this room. First off, this top row up here, these are just all DVDs that I haven't entered into my database yet. I have an Excel spreadsheet where I separate all my movies by genre and director and different actors that are in the film. Like I said, I have not inputted these in yet, so I have them separated from the DVDs that are actually within the DVD shelves. Alright, and then getting into my DVD shelves, I have them separated by style and by directors. So pretty much these first two rows are all comedies, and they're pretty much just kind of like my stupid comedies. Meaning they're not dramedies or like indie style comedies / smart comedies. It's not until we get to these rows, or these are like all my indie / smart comedies. And then up here is just a hodgepodge of indie comedies and then stand-up comics. Once we get out of the comedy, we get into my dramas. My dramas start here, once again separated stylistically and by director. I try to keep all my like indies and my favorite directors within this one. As we start getting into here, we start getting into more of my my dramedies / love type dramas and more serious dramas towards the bottom. And then my dramas stop here. Once we get to this row, this is where my action section begins. This row right here are all my war movies. This section right here is all my Western films. These are my period pieces. Then these two rows are pretty much what I like to call my man films. They're my Die Hards, my Rambo, my Beverly Hills Cop. On the bottom we have more of my crime dramas. And I got my, my Scarface. Alright, this shelf right here is probably my favorite shelf in the room. This is my sci-fi collection. It's one I'm most proud of. Spent the most time collecting within. Anyways, on top I got my Hellgas Special Edition helmet on top. Then getting into my shelves. This shelf right here is pretty much my favorite sci-fi films of all time. My Aliens, my Predator, my Terminator, my RoboCop. And then down here we've got my Starship Troopers and my Matrix and my Pitch Black series. This row right here are my Star Wars and my Star Trek films. And then once we get to the last three rows, it's just a hodgepodge of various science fiction films. Alright, this top shelf right here, once again, these are all my DVDs that I have not yet entered into my database yet. So they're all my newer DVDs that I've just picked up within the last couple months. Alright, on this shelf right here, the reason I have Gollum on top is because this is where I have all my fantasy and all my comic book films. Top row right here are my Lord of the Rings and my Harry Potter films and just a couple other fantasy films. This row right here is other fantasy films. I got my Conan and my Sword and Sorcery / type films. These ones I got kind of my fantasy action films, kind of start with my Indiana Jones and go into my Willy Wonka films. This row right here is all my comic book films. So I have my X-Men, my Spider-Man, I got my Blade, my Hellboy. And then this shelf right here, once again I have more comic book type films and graphic novel films like Mystery Men 300. And the very bottom shelf right here, actually the first section of it is video game films. Resident Evil, Mortal Kombat, and whatnot. And then these go into my like fantasy / horror. Alright, this entire shelf are my horror movies. This row kind of deals with my monster films and my slasher films. These one deal with all my torture films and serial killer films. The majority of this entire row are my zombie films. Then these two rows are just kind of hodgepodge of various other horrors. And the bottom shelf kind of goes from horror into dark thrillers. Alright, this shelf right here kind of goes right back into my action. I know there's kind of a weird gap in between my action from that shelf to here. But whatever, that's the way I broke it up and that's what I do. Anyways, this row right here are my Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez films. This entire shelf kind of deals with my British kind of gang films. I got my Guy Ritchie films, and then kind of go into my Smoking Aces and whatnot. Then these next couple rows are pretty much just various hodgepodge of different action, all the way up into the bottom. Alright, this shelf is all kinds of crazy. These two top rows are my kid films. I got my classics like the original Ninja Turtles, and this one kind of has all my animated films like my Disney films and whatnot. Then once we start going into these rows, these are all my music-oriented films. These ones are just actually like biopics or films that just kind of center around music as a theme. And then these ones are actual videos about musical artists and documentaries about artists. This row right here, once again, is just more musical artists. Or I have a lot of DVDs that just have nothing but a special director who directed a lot of music videos. This very bottom shelf, though, totally switches gears. These are just all my political documentaries. Alright, this shelf right here is documentaries and foreign films. The first three rows are just a hodgepodge of various documentaries. Then the bottom three rows are kind of broken into the country they come from. This one kind of deals with films from Spain and from Mexico. These are films that come from France and from Germany. And the bottom one here is just a hodgepodge of various other countries. Alright, this shelf, once again, these are all foreign films. Differences though, this film is just like the other ones. These are just a hodgepodge of various other foreign films. But then the rest of it are all Asian-oriented films. This one right here, these are all my animes. Then these films, these are all my Japanese films. Then we get into this row, and this row actually is a lot of Korean and a lot of Japanese. And then these bottom two rows that you're seeing right here, these are pretty much all my Kung Fu type films. So a lot of Sonny Chiba, a lot of Bruce Lee. Then we get to the bottom and we got a lot of Jet Li films. Alright, on the top of my shelf, all these are kind of like, these are actually all homemade DVDs that I made. Finding just really, really obscure stuff on the internet and turning it into DVDs. So I got these categorized accordingly. These are actually all bootlegs that I got from my brother when he was in China. He sent me a bunch of really cool stuff. These shelves, there's really not a whole lot of order. The only thing that special about these three rows, these are actually all my Region 2 DVDs. These are all DVDs that I've picked up since I've been in the UK. Then the rest of what you see here are actually just all DVDs that I have not put yet in my database system, so there's no rhyme and reason as to. Alright, these two groups of DVDs are actually so unimportant they don't even get to sit on shelves. This row right here are actually just all my duplicates. They're ones that I've either gotten from family or friends that I already had, but most of them are actually ones I've already bought Blu-rays for, so I pulled them out and replaced them already. And this one right here, these are all just really crappy cheap ones that I either got from free or I got from like Big Lots for like 25 cents, and they're just like the really crappy thin case ones. Alright, this shelf right here, these three shelves are all television shows. This is probably my favorite shelf here on this one, because these are my Comedy Central comedies, and then these are my HBO comedies, and then I have my found footage festivals. The bottom three shelves are all DVDs that I have not yet entered into my database system yet. Alright, this entire shelf, these are actually all television shows except for the bottom shelf. Once again separated by genre. This first shelf is all comedies. This shelf, they're all cartoons or shows that were on Adult Swim. This shelf right here, these are all teenage melodrama shows. So I got my Degrassi and Freaks and Geeks. This row right here, I have all my sketch comedy. So I have my SCTV and my SNL. These are just a hodgepodge of random shows. And the very bottom shelf here is where I have all my cult films. Alright, now we're getting into my Blu-rays. This shelf, the first four shelves are actually all Blu-rays. This shelf right here, pretty much all my sci-fi / dystopian films. This shelf are my sci-fis and my fantasy films. This one is just kind of a hodgepodge of different action films and thrillers. This one, once again, just a hodgepodge of different action and thriller films. And then this shelf goes back into television shows. These are Comedy Central shows and MTV shows. And the very bottom shelf, most of them are sci-fis, except for the last couple are just a couple of like old shows from the 80s thrown in, like Punky Brewster and Super Mario Brothers show. Alright, this DVD shelf probably has my favorite row in this entire room. It's probably this row right here. These are all my favorite sci-fis on Blu-ray. So this has my Alien anthology, my Predator films, I have Thing, I have my Terminator, my Star Trek films, my Starship Troopers, RoboCop, District 9. Like I said, this is my favorite row. Then this one, these are all my comic book films. So it has my X-Men films, my Spider-Man, Iron Man, Hulk, my Batman films and whatnot. And then a couple others thrown in there like Watchmen and Kick-Ass. This one right here, these are my crime films, I guess it starts off with, because I got my Godfather Coppola restoration, then I got my favorite Scorsese films, then I got my Kill Bill and my Sin City, Inglourious Bastard. Don't usually do this one of the other ones, but this is one I'm quite proud of. It's actually a limited edition steel case machete I purchased here while in the UK. And then the rest of this is just horror films I picked up on Blu-ray. Then these down here, these are like my war movies in Blu-ray. They stop about right here. Then the rest of this entire shelf is all comedies. Which doesn't make a whole lot of sense that I got my war movies next to my comedies, but until I figure out a better plan with my Blu-rays. Then the bottom shelf, kind of a hodgepodge of action, and I got a lot of my my Asian war type films. Like I got Old Boy and Machine Girl, and I got Confucius and Mongol. Then I got a lot more action films down here. And then this bottom shelf down here, this is really a complete and utter just hodgepodge of dramas and comedies and whatnot.